Good day, viewers. Welcome once again to my weekly devotional. Today, I'm really excited to share with you something I'm really passionate about, and I call this living from the inside out. And that's basically living by faith. Romans 1:17 says, "The righteous will live by faith." You would think that most Christians who read their Bible every day would understand this, that God has called us to live by faith in every circumstance, that God has called us to live from the inside out. But most people still live life from the outside in. They live life based on their five senses: sight, touch, smell, hearing, and taste. They live life based on the flesh, based on the circumstances. In fact, the Bible tells us in Romans 8, verse 6, "For to set the mind on the flesh is death, but to set the mind on the spirit is life and peace." Will you set the mind on the spirit? Set the mind on the things within. To live this life from the inside out is how God has called us to live. It's the only way we can soar in these trying times, in these challenging times where people are living by fear. God has not called us to live by fear, but to live by faith. To live from the inside out and not from the outside in. I love the scripture in 1 Peter 1:8, and it really exemplifies what I'm trying to say here about living from the inside out. And it says, "You love him even though you have never seen him. Though you do not see him now, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy." Wow. There is a glorious, inexpressible joy available for every child of God if only we can tap into it, if only we can focus more on the spirit that brings life and peace, rather than focus on the flesh that brings death. To focus on the flesh is to focus on fear and all these circumstances around us. And what is fear? It's simply false evidence appearing real. You see, fear focuses on the problem, and faith focuses on the promises of God. When we focus on the promise of God, we're living from the inside out. And this is how David lived his life. In a time of suffering, in a time of fear, this is what David said: "My comfort in my suffering is this: your promise preserves my life." Hey, if God's promises could preserve David's life, I believe that God can still do the same in our life today, because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So I want to encourage you, hold on to these promises by faith. Live this life from the inside out. It's not enough to just hear about God's promises. We have to believe them. This is the difference between believing God's promise and just hearing about God's promise. Hebrews 4:2 says, "But the promises didn't do them a bit of good because they didn't receive the promises with faith." You can hear about God's promises, but still receive it from the outside in. Receive it based on the circumstances. Receive it based on your senses. Receive it from your spirit, from the inside out, and tap into this inexpressible joy so that you can live a life of faith and not a life of fear. God bless you and have a